So, in the end, staying awake over the Monaco Grand Prix was about as hard as having an intellectual conversation with a TikTok influencer. But thankfully, next up on the F1 calendar was none other than the Baku Street Circuit, the race that typically ends up resembling something more like a demolition derby. Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1 and to the Comedy Review, the series where I give my satirical take on the F1 weekend's action, before getting taken down by FOM. Speaking of, actually I'll address this all at the end of the video, as I appreciate not everyone really cares about it, but I do want to thank all of you for the kind messages and support over all the drama last week. You are all absolute legends, so thank you. And before we do get into the thick of the drama, if you do enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're closing in on 25,000 subscribers now, which honestly is just surreal. But let's not waste any more time then, and hop into the comedy review of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So for once, track limits was not the main topic on the agenda coming into the weekend, mainly because if you abuse them at Baku, your car's ending up yeeted into a wall. Instead, the front runners were all bitching about flexi wings again, with the FIA announcing new tests to ban the concept from the next race in France. This meant that teams took the idea to an all-new level, with even Mercedes, who had spent the last two races crying about Red Bull's design, trying it out themselves. This wouldn't help their cause when it came to first practice, however, with Hamilton only P7 and Bottas further back in 10th come the end of the session. Their main rivals Red Bull would find themselves at the top of the table with Max Verstappen, as Ferrari proved their Monaco pace was no one off by rounding out the top three. My favourite driver, Nikita Mazepin, had a surprisingly incident-free weekend in Monaco, so could this be a sign that he's finally improving as a driver? Okay, never mind. Somehow though, despite this, no one had binned it into the Baku walls. But that was all about to change. Heading into FP2, Charles Leclerc tried to find the form Ferrari had in 2019, where he was in contention for pole. But instead, he just found the form that put him in the barrier instead. Mazepin was also back in the headlines, the Russian angry at Carlos Sainz for ruining his lap, which is a bit like a UK politician getting angry after just being lied to. It would be Red Bull on top of the timesheets though, as Perez had what he called his best Friday all year, and beating Verstappen to P1. Promptly leading to Christian Horner making a call to Alexander Albon. Ferrari also continued their strong form, while the same could not be said for Mercedes, neither of whom managed to make the top 10. Red Bull's dominance would hit a bit of a speed bump in FP3 however, as Max Verstappen's new line through turn 15 ends up with his car lodged into the barrier. AlphaTauri were there to pick up the pieces though, as Gasly took a shock P1 at the end of the session, and Tsunoda also impressed, making my video earlier this week age like his Imola qualifying performance. Speaking of qualifying, that would be up next, and turn 15 continued to take more victims, Lance Stroll realising that driving with 3 wheels, funnily enough, is a little bit slower than with 4. This brought out the first red flag, and it wouldn't be the last, as Jesus went from turning water into wine to turning his Alfa Romeo into a scrap heap. Red flag number 2 then. But Q1 would eventually finish with Latifi and the 2 Haas cars joining Stroll and Gio in the drop zone. Lando Norris would also get himself into trouble with the stewards, failing to pit after the red flag and receiving a 3-place grid drop for the race, in a move that led to all the kids on F1 Twitter run crying to their mothers. On to Q2 then. Daniel Ricciardo finally looked like he'd tamed his McLaren coming into the weekend, but this wouldn't last long, as the Aussie got a little too familiar with a turn 3 barrier and brought out the 3rd red flag of the day. That said, last time Danny crashed in a Baku qualifying session, he managed to win the race on Sunday. Look, I can just dream, alright? Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, had the Eurobeat turned up to 11, getting himself into Q3 for the first time in his career, while Ricciardo's red flag caught some drivers out, and meant the likes of Vettel and Ocon failed to progress to the final part of qualifying. And that leaves us with Q3 then, and after quietly impressing over the weekend so far, Ferrari did something truly incredible. They actually had a strategy. Leclerc ended up taking a double toe off of both Hamilton and Bottas, flying to the top of the table and taking provisional pole. Problem was, it was going to be incredibly difficult for him to stay where he was given the pace of the Red Bull drivers. If only there was a way to stop the drivers improving their lap times. Well, I mean, you could crash out again, but nah, Ferrari they'd never do anything like that.
And also Carlos Sainz! They must have had it coming together!
Alright, this is getting a little bit sus now, I won't lie. Nevertheless, Leclerc would end up starting the race on pole, joining Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in the top 3, as Mercedes found a shock turn of pace at the end. Well, one of them anyway. So just the race to go then. But before we jump into that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Team Jerseys Pro allow you to design your own custom jerseys and hoodies, and have kindly partnered up with FP1 to give you a discount on their site. The process of designing is really simple. Just pick a hoodie design and style and customize it however you want. You can even add your own custom logo to make the design your own. I couldn't resist the temptation, had a go myself, and the end result came out really well. The overall quality of the product was really nice, and the hoodie is incredibly comfortable to wear. You can also get 10% off your order and help support the channel by using the code FP1WILL at checkout. So if you want to have a go yourself, you can find links to their website down in the description of the video. Now then, let's jump right into the race. Leclerc was able to hold off Hamilton at the start, as incredibly no one binned it in the wall into turn 1. Perez improved past Gasly as Verstappen and Hamilton charged after the Ferrari in front. And if you told me I was going to say that's at the start of the year, I'd have told you to jump off a cliff. Since Ferrari were actually playing by the rules for once, Charles found himself slowly swallowed by the pack, as Hamilton and Verstappen got past. Red Bull weren't finished there though, and at the pit stop phase benefited from a slow stop from Lewis to take the race lead with Verstappen. Sergio Perez, however, was still flying at the front, and it looked as if he could jump both of them until Red Bull suspiciously forgot how to do a pit stop, allowing Max to remain ahead. And at this point, the race began to really just settle down, and honestly it looked as if it was going to become a DRS train for the remaining 30 laps. Pirelli, however, had other ideas. Lance Stroll was on an alternate strategy, but needed a safety car in order to really benefit from staying out so long. Getting bored, he decided just to create one himself, but only after realised that he could no longer capitalise, as his car was now strewn all over the country of Azerbaijan. Lance also crashed near the pit entry, meaning no one could change onto a new set of tyres while his Aston Martin was removed. Mick Schumacher was one of the only drivers to pit when allowed to, but his Haas mechanics found another new way to cock up, and sent him out on 3 wheels. What makes this even better was that Mick still managed to come out ahead of Nikita Mazepin. Oh, this man is a new breed of shit, honestly. So the race restarted and Verstappen flew away in front of Perez, who was holding off a charging #blessed. Pirelli still weren't finished though, with Verstappen's tyre next to explode on the straight, causing a red flag and Sebastian Vettel of all people to sneak into the podium places. This was perfect for Lewis Hamilton, who now was going to re-inherit the championship lead with Verstappen out. All he had to do was last 2 more laps. Alright. Scrap that then. So, after everything, Sergio Perez took the poison chalice of a second Red Bull seat to the top step of the podium, with Vettel grabbing Aston's first podium in second and Pierre Gasly rounding out an incredible top 3. And I'll be honest, I thought this race was going to end up in the bin after half distance, but wow did it deliver to possibly turn into one of the most exciting of the season so far. Do let me know what your thoughts on the race were down below in the comments. I do try and read and respond to as many as I can. Now I do want to talk briefly about the future of this series, and you can probably tell I've gone off script at this point. I just thought I'd ramble for a little bit. So yeah, for those that don't know, the last 2 race reviews, the Spanish GP and the Monaco GP, were taken down by FOM, which was a bit of a pain. I'll be honest. I get why they have those bots out there to do that, because obviously you can't have people just reposting race footage, but yeah, with the way the comedy reviews are, they, I believe, do fall under fair use. So it's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one. You can probably tell that there's less of the F1 footage in this video. I'm trying things out, and hopefully this video has stayed up. I know I've jinxed it now, but fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But yeah, if this one gets taken down, I've still got a few more things left that I can try to do, but it will be difficult to continue the series on as in its current form anyway. And I'll try and think of some new ideas and new ways I can do things. I don't really want to go back to the way I was doing them last year, which I just don't think really fit in with the way the channel was, and I think the comedy reviews clearly have a lot more of a following than the race reviews did last season. So yeah, we'll see how it goes from here. But I do just want to thank absolutely everyone out there who messaged me, who got in touch with suggestions, who kept the support up, and who watched the videos again when they were re-uploaded. Like, I really appreciate that. I think Monaco ends up being re-uploaded like 3 times, and you guys still went and watched it again and again and again, and I do really appreciate that. So thank you so much. And yeah, there's still plenty more to come, and even if the comedy review doesn't continue, I've got another plan. I could look at maybe past seasons or like classic races. There are other ideas that I can have with the comedy review, so we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. I'll keep you guys posted. I just really want to say thank you again for all the support. I've rambled too much now, so I'm going to shut up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next one.